This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show designed to bring you the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace trends that are shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around you. I search for guests who can give insights into these trends, and the guests can speak about them in such a way that you and I can take these ideas and apply them to our own business to make ourselves and our friends and our colleagues and our businesses a little bit better at whatever it is that we do. That's the goal. We want to become just a little bit better at whatever it is that we do, whether it's a way to manage people, whether it's a way to bring a new product to market, whether it's just simply needing inspiration for some perseverance, or whether it's being able to hang in a conversation about things that we don't know a whole lot about. And that perhaps is a good way to begin this show. What's Working is incidentally brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, better known as ACRE, A-C-R-E, Alabama Center of Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. And for their support, we are eternally grateful. You walk into a conversation and there's somebody there talking about blockchain. There's somebody there talking about Bitcoin. Or there's somebody there talking about helium, and not the element helium that fills the balloon, but the cryptocurrency called helium and how it's being mined and things of this nature. And you think to yourself, as I have done so many times, oops, need to turn around and walk away. I really don't understand much about this stuff. And rather than be revealed the fool by saying something, I'll just let them wonder and walk away. Last year, we had Scott Tindle on the program. Scott gave me an introduction to blockchain and the significance of blockchain and how it supports, that blockchain technology supports Bitcoin. And at the end of that show, he said, Cam, if you have me back someday, I'll blow your mind about what this stuff is doing in the market today. And I said, well, Scott, that would be a good thing to do. We'd love to have you back and have you blow. Everybody likes to have their minds blown a little bit. What I didn't realize is that so much of this stuff that Scott's going to blow our mind with today is already happening. It's not something that we're wondering when will happen. Will it grow more popular? Yes, but it's already out there. And there are some parts of our daily transactions that are already being supported by these two technologies. Now, there are many out there listening going, well, of course, Cam, I can't believe you didn't already know this. Well, I'm a late bloomer when it comes to this content. And today we're going to have Scott back to talk about how this stuff is functioning in our society today. What stuff? Blockchain and how it supports Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Scott is a fan of one called Helium, and I'll ask him to go into detail on that. With us in the studio is Johnny Gwin. Johnny is often the knobs and dials guy. I use his studio at the Container Yard here in Mobile to film a lot of my in-person interviews, and Johnny has a great interest as well as a vested interest in some of this blockchain and Bitcoin and helium technology. So I've asked him to join us in the studio as well to share his insight. So if you don't know much about it, folks, hang on. You're going to get a tutorial, and then you're going to learn how this stuff is interacting with you already on a daily basis. This is going to be fun. Prepare, as we said, to have your mind blown. Prior to going into break, let's talk a little bit about my friends at Sandifer Wealth Management. After retirement and a cost of a home, saving for education is one of the 3 most costly financial planning goals a family may have. By working with Sandifer Wealth Management, you can tap into tax-free growth opportunities, estate planning incentives, and potential state tax deductions of a 529 plan. Look them up at sandiferwealth.com. Again, sandiferwealth.com. I know Mark Salyers. I know Jamie Sandifer. And I know I know what a 529 plan can do for college savings. My wife and I started one as soon as our children were each old enough to get a Social Security number. One of the very first things we did was start a 529 plan for them. And we got the great benefit of a rising market in their first 18 years of lives. And those 529 plans have set us up to pay for our kids' college tuition in a way that we never could have guessed, and has been one of the wisest financial decisions my wife and I have ever made. Sandifer Wealth Management. Find them at sandiferwealth.com. Mark Salyers, Jamie Sandifer. Go into break. When we come back, I'll be in the studio. Scott Tindle and Johnny Gwin talking blockchain, Bitcoin, Helium Network. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culver House College of Business at the University of Alabama. The Alabama Center for Real Estate, better known as ACRE, housed at the University of Alabama's Culver House College of Business, is committed to industry engagement and dedicated to shaping the future of real estate through excellence in teaching, research, and service to drive economic and workforce development in Alabama. ACRE and Alabama, a championship collaboration. Learn more at www.acre.culverhouse.ua.edu. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culver House College of Business at the University of Alabama. I'm in the studio today with Scott Tindle and Johnny Gwin. Johnny Gwin is always the man behind the dials. However, Johnny has a deep insight into blockchain and the technologies that blockchain supports. Scott Tindle, I just learned, was overseas, and we'll learn about that, representing the United States interests in Dubai and Egypt for this technology as well. When Scott was last in the studio, he promised me a mind-blowing conversation about what this blockchain technology would be able to do. I've invited him back to have that conversation, supported by Johnny Gwin as well. Gentlemen, and Scott, I think you're the quickest guest we have ever had repeat in the studio. Thank you for coming back. Welcome to What's Working.
Well, thanks for having me. I had a wonderful time last time, so I'm glad to be here today.
And Johnny, thank you for being on this side of the microphone this time.
Anytime I could get on the microphone, it's great because I never get the chance.
Yeah,
and it's my microphone.
It is your microphone. It is your studio.
It's amazing.
Yeah, the fact that you get to use them. So I want to begin because there are listeners here who are certainly like me, have heard these terminologies before: blockchain, Bitcoin, Helium Network, all this kind of stuff. Let's go with the fundamentals. We don't want to get too deep, but the fundamentals of blockchain so that we can then get into the mind-blowing conversation. Scott, I'll let you lead us off.
So what's interesting is mind-blowing conversation happens because Johnny Gwin's here. So he came in for the save.
Blush.
Actually, the way I describe the blockchain is how Johnny described it to me and taught it to me.
Oh, wow.
So I don't want to do a secondhand version of that. So Johnny.
No, wait, you have to remind me. I've done so many analogies.
It's the blockchain version of the operating software.
Oh, right.
Description.
So there's Mac users and PC users, right?
Right.
Well, PC, the Windows that you know and use, the user uses Windows, is built on top of roughly DOS, which was a language written in like the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So the language is there. That would be the blockchain. The crypto projects and currencies would be the applications built on top of DOS. For Mac, it would be Linux.
Right.
So what you see of the Macintosh operating system is on top of the Linux, which would be the language, so that would be the blockchain. So blockchain is the language, and then the projects and the Bitcoin would be the thing that sits on top of that foundation.
So Bitcoin is one of, this is what I was taught in our last conversation, Scott. Bitcoin is one of dozens, tens of dozens of thousands of currencies that exist in our society today that are traded and utilized by narrow bands of people, with Bitcoin being the most popular. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And each of these companies that support these different types of currencies have different uses and values for the currencies, one of which would be Helium. Is that correct?
That is. And the way to think about that is think about each of these coins as a startup, right? They all have a stated purpose. Some of them may be for profit. Some of them are not for profit. Mm-hmm. They can have as many different, backgrounds as any kind of normal business. And here's the way that I've been thinking about it lately is before I got into crypto, I thought 99% of it was just BS.
Yep.
And now that I'm in crypto full time, I know that 99% of it is BS, but I also know that other 1% is going to change the world.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I agree.
So where does that 1% matter? If there are 17,000 crypto coins, 1% is what? 170. Sure. I think there's 170 legit projects out there. I don't think that's crazy at all. I don't know all of them because I haven't had the ability to evaluate, all 17,000 startups.
Sure.
But I think that 1% sounds like a good number. I mean, 170 projects makes sense to me.
So there are listeners out there going, okay, what does it do? What does it do? How do I interact with it? Where will I interact with it? Somebody give me an example of the blockchain technology that is accessible to us today that perhaps we're engaging with and don't even know. Johnny, you got one?
Well, the one for you to be involved in it, as you saw this Super Bowl, the biggest ads were Coinbase, FTX, and Crypto.com.
Yeah.
But that would be exchanges. That is like the stock market. That is where you can sign up on Coinbase. It's an American company, by the way. It's traded on NASDAQ. Coinbase is traded on NASDAQ. And that is where you hook up your bank account and you can purchase these crypto tokens and Ethereum, Bitcoin, all those things, and you can operate it incredibly easy. They have amazing tutorials on there that will teach you unbelievably and pay you in crypto as you're learning. Okay. That is the easiest way to engage with crypto. Now, what you're asking is, how do people use the blockchain and not know you're using the blockchain?
Correct.
Yes.
So one thing to think about is there's a product called TradeLens that was created by, I believe, IBM and Maersk, but it tracks 80% of all the goods shipped in the world.
Inventory.
And they're tracked through this TradeLens blockchain.
Okay.
So if you receive anything from Amazon or you've ever been to Walmart or you leave your house, you're interacting with something that's already tracked on the blockchain today. That is what it is doing is it is taking the friction out of their business model, allowing them to move goods for cheaper and to decrease their cost and the time it takes for payment to move.
So as a consumer, as the end user, that Amazon package that comes to my door has at some point in its past been tracked by blockchain technology, whether it was moving over the oceans from China or within the United States after it arrived on land.
And I'd be very surprised if Amazon didn't already have their own private blockchain that they're tracking their own data. They just have a private version and not a public ledger.
I'll give you another one too. Again, warehouse. It's the idea of Benjamin's big law of numbers, which is the idea of that's what the government uses to be able to do surveys and reports to give you like what the Office of Business and Management will say what costs, right? These huge amounts of massive numbers. Well, inventory, of course, in a national scale, massive amounts of numbers. Blockchain is able to crunch those numbers and be able to use them within your software you're using on top of it to handle all of that information and make it understandable for you quickly. One of my favorite projects is called VeChain, and it's been around for quite a while, and it has been in warehouses for a very long time. They take the RFID chips that are in those blue pallets, which, by the way, fascinating business model, those blue pallets, by the way. You can't own them. You have to release them. But they're all trackable, and the idea is they are moving towards, especially Amazon, automated robots to do the work, right, in the warehouse to where these robots are moving things and picking up things. So the RFID chip shows what's on the pallet, has all the pricing on it, and it tells the robot where to go and get what pallet from what. VeChain has created on their blockchain, which I think is on the Ethereum blockchain. They built on top of it VeChain. Their job is to make warehouses understand this information to automate the robots and understand your inventory faster, better, and cheaper.
Well, Peter Raschuti was on the show not long ago. He's an economist out of Tulane, and one of the things that he said is we would be surprised as we went into these giant warehouses of how few people are operating them. And even the forklifts are now are automated, perhaps using the technology that you're mentioning there, Johnny. Scott, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if we want to stay right there on shipping but go to the next level, once that package leaves the warehouse, there's now blockchain technology out there that allows the package to be tracked every 5 minutes. So using Helium, the network we've talked about, they can put a sensor inside this package and it will send out a blip every 5 minutes, and you can get real-time updates on where your package is, whether it's, you know how it is where it's like, oh, it's at the warehouse or it's on the truck or, if it's something valuable and I really need to know where it is, I can do that through this product now.
So it would come up on a map. It would ping on the map or something like that.
Just like a air tag on a Apple.
I've got another one I've been looking at, and we'll get into mining later. I saw a company that I'm looking at, I'm researching right now. It's called HiveMaker. HiveMaker does not like how Google has the maps that you use to go to when you put the directions in, right? Tells you, I'm leaving where I am to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, whatever it is. Well, those are centralized maps that Google uses, their information, and the idea is it's not in control of the users, it's in control of Google. This HiveMaker, it's going to allow people to have cameras on the front of their cars to map. And as you're mapping new roads, you're getting paid in what's called honey. Honey is the token for the HiveMaker app. And that is the thing where the normal person can be involved in that economy and the blockchain innovation and how you can do things to not only help the community, but help the service, but also enrich your own self.
So we had a guest on the show who's a commercial realtor who was talking about that and how many companies use Google Maps to base their software product on. And now it's decentralizing that and giving it to the people of the community to put a camera in their car and a GPS tracker to get video footage from the street. And you would be paid in a honey token, and a honey token would have value on the exchange.
Right, on the exchange, Coinbase, FTX, or Crypto.com, or many of the other ones in foreign countries. Yes.
Yeah. Where Web3 is going is that
that's a new word. That's a new thing.
Vocabulary.
What's Web3?
All right, so we'll get there. But where Web3 is going is where we own our own data and we can decide how we get paid for it and if we want to get paid for it.
Yeah. I want to talk about Web3. My mind is stretching, and I can foresee blown down the road not far from here. So let's go to break, and we'll come back, and we'll enter with, give me a sense of how my mind could be blown instantly with what's already going on. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. In the studio today with Scott Tindle and Johnny Gwin, talking technology stuff. We'll be right back. This is Cam Marston, and I'm with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, if a homeowner thinks they have termites, do you offer inspections? What about someone buying a new home? Can you come in and take a look and see if there are termites in their new home?
Yeah, basically what we would do on a home above and beyond anyone else is we actually do a thorough inspection. But above that, we will use infrared imaging that will allow us to see problems in the wall and at times can tell us if there's anything going on.
That's fantastic, Cajun Mike. How can people find you?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com. Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We are back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio with Scott Tindle and Johnny Gwin. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. When you were, Scott, in the Middle East, no, you weren't in the Middle East. You were in Africa, weren't you?
Both, technically. I was in Dubai and then Cairo.
Okay. You were meeting with people from all over the continent to talk about, you were representing the United States as a guest, is that the right term, of the U.S. State Department. Is that about it?
Yeah, that's pretty close. It was a meeting put on by State Department Commerce Department, and what we were trying to do is find ways that we can use the emerging technologies such as blockchain-based technologies to help these emerging economies.
So,
and it's different in different parts of the world, right? So in Saudi Arabia, they're building brand new cities from scratch, and everything is going to be a smart city. So you can imagine how that would, impact building a smart city from scratch. On the other side of the equation, you have, the Congolese who don't even have running water that are investigating ways they can use it, or the folks in Mozambique or Uganda.
So you had mentioned the Ugandan coffee farmers. This is interesting to me as a consumer of coffee, which I'm drinking right now. Go on. Tell me the story of the Ugandan coffee farmer, and I'll start wrapping my arms around my head.
Sure. So coffee is a major export in Uganda, and right now there are about 8,000 farmers who are operating their own independent farms, basically subsistence farming, but they're part of a co-op, right? So through Helium, which is this decentralized wireless communication network that can move data, we can help these farmers increase their yield by using a dozen different agribusiness sensors, whether it be monitoring the temperature or the moisture or the needed fertilizers, whatever they may need. And you say, why is that important? Well, a subsistence farmer in Uganda has never had access to knowing when he needs more or less of this, much less information being shared. So theoretically, we could put these sensors across these 8,000 farms, and one of the NGOs, whether it be the USDA or the World Food Program or someone like that, can actually get this data from these farms instantaneously every 5 minutes and consult back as to what we need to do to continue to improve yields. Now, the interesting thing is, because this technology is so cheap, we can basically do it for almost free to the Ugandan citizens.
And you sell the data for a premium.
Yeah, and they get, percentages back off their own data as well.
So they're going to get a higher yield due to somebody somewhere saying, hey, we're monitoring this and you need to increase your nitrogen in the ground or whatever it may be, your potash in the ground, or you need more water or something like that. It's going to increase their coffee yield.
And they'll make more money. Who is against this? All these ideas, which sound so good, usually there's another side to it. What is the other side? Well, certainly who is going to be responsible for doing it, right? Everybody wants to, when you're dealing with foreign entities, you've got the government, first of all, that you've got to find a good partnership with. And then you've got to figure out which department inside of the government. Is it their agriculture department? Do they even have an agriculture department, or does it run through something else, right? And then you got to figure out, what are the telecommunication issues there? Who owns the communication towers? Does the government own it? Does a pseudo-private entity own it? So a lot of these telecom companies may technically be private, but they're government, state-owned and controlled properties. So it just gets complicated. Well, but I don't think anybody's fundamentally against it.
Right.
There's just a lot of hurdles to get there.
And that's not a crypto thing. That's a business thing.
Yeah,
and I'll give you an example. So you're talking about telecommunications companies, right? AT&T, Verizon has spent billions of dollars to create an infrastructure that they're going to monetize over the next 25 years. You show a new way to do it, that they're going to lose customers, those tables now do not make sense. And they are going against it, not maybe because of the technology, but because, whoa, we've already invested money for 20 years, and you're telling me that somebody can put up this thing in their house, and they're doing this thing, and it's going to change the way it works. So the establishment with infrastructure is going to have a problem because they've already invested with the idea of amateurization down the line, and they see the way things are going to change way too quickly for them. Hence, the establishment has a problem with it.
The establishment has a problem with it, so they'll start lobbying the politicians.
Regulations.
We see this.
We don't like monopolies, but we are one.
And they're going to start rumors that the Helium network causes cancer in rabbits or something like that. And we're seeing this a little bit. I need to be careful here.
I was going to say, let's not promote that. That is not right.
Yes.
Well, I mentioned this,
yes,
and this has become
important.
This is an issue of my own, and that is every state surrounding the state of Alabama has tens of thousands of solar panels in them. Alabama has 500.
Right,
because when you start looking into it, you see why Alabama has only
We can
500.
get into that conversation regarding Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining is exploding in Georgia right now. Alabama is not able to understand and figure out
they don't see the
how
opportunity
to move fast enough on it. So perfect example is everyone I know that's in this industry is going to Georgia and Texas. Alabama has the opportunity to compete with them and be just as large of a player. And I've told people if Alabama wanted to be, they could be the Dubai of crypto.
Which is
mining.
funny because we're also the third world of America, meaning it's cheaper here. It's easier to do things. If the government would get out of the way and let this stuff happen, there's opportunity there. But we have people who will not allow that.
Right now, you have millions of pieces of equipment, crypto miners, that are trying to be relocated from China. Literally millions.
Because China banned it.
And
China
banned the mining of cryptocurrencies, right? Specifically Bitcoin. So there were millions of these mining machines that now need somewhere else to live. And people are scouring all over the country. And Alabama is missing the mark over and over and over and over again as people go to Georgia and Texas. And those people are going to deliver a metric ton of tax money to those states.
So what is necessary for Alabama to do to welcome these mining devices?
All they need to do is have a competitive power rate. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's to the kilowatt hour, price per kilowatt.
That's the main thing. Infrastructure is cheap. You can figure out how to do that. Warehouse space, you can stack things on. You can stack all this very easily.
Yeah.
But the idea is I have to have cheap power because that is the resource upon which I am digging this mountain to pull out the Bitcoin.
So that's 90% of your cost. Right?
Is the electricity to run it.
Fractions of pennies matter.
And that's
not like pennies, like fractions.
And so the renewable energy people, the green people, if we can make renewable energy be very efficient, that is really what you want to do because you can do a flat fee. So say you're a Bitcoin miner and you can find a way to do hydropower and you can find a way to do solar power and you can do a one-time cost to get that thing up and you're roughly getting free energy. That is how you really make money make sense.
So we have state of Alabama has the fourth highest power rate in the United States.
And then that
kilowatt hour.
They're not even going to look there. And why would I look? Because it's like if I have a trucking company, why would I go to a state that has the fourth highest gas prices?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
To give you an idea of the scope of what Bitcoin mining looks like that got shut down, there's a group that we met with that has 500 megawatts worth of equipment that they're trying to relocate. To give you an idea, downtown Dallas is about 25 megawatts worth of power. So this is 20 Dallases worth of power. They were so big that they created a hydro plant in the Himalayas between these two mountains, and the river was powering the plant, the 500 megawatt plant. And they had built it 5 stories high, and it was like 3 days from everywhere. I mean, literally, I had to get it there. You don't just anyway. The Chinese government shut them down, and literally they have a giant 20 times the amount of Dallas's power sitting idle at just this one plant. And that's how big the market is that people we don't know it exists because we don't have to because it's not part of our daily interaction. Yeah.
Why did China shut it down?
Control.
They want to control how their people make money or don't make money.
Bitcoin is freedom.
You can't allow the regular citizens of China to have a way to earn money without the government's permission.
No way.
Yeah.
And get rich, by the way, because they had cheap power. There's a lot of freedom-loving Chinese who have made a good bit of money that are now trying to figure out how to deploy that money around the rest of the world.
Yep.
Who is doing it well right now? Give me some states, some nations that are doing it well.
Netherlands, Finland, that area. They took to Bitcoin, but they've taken to technology. So the Netherlands, Finland, Sweden, that area. Yeah. Look, El Salvador right now. Let me tell you what. El Salvador did not have legal tender. They just made Bitcoin legal tender and then they're about to do a bond where they're going to use a volcano for their Bitcoin El Salvador mining operation. That's already said it's going to be a massive bond they're going to do. That is changing that company immediately very fast to being freedom, independence for a company that relied on the American dollar.
Yeah.
Well, you're also going to see that this Bitcoin mining is going to drive the innovation in renewables, and it's going to drive down. If 90% of your cost is power, what do you think every Bitcoin miner is doing? They're looking for cheaper, faster ways to get power. That is going to drive innovation in renewables, and you're going to start to see people like I've seen proposals of people using Pacific Ocean wave action.
That's the one I think would actually work.
To power. I mean, there's just so many really cool. The Congolese are looking at putting a hydro dam on the Congo River, which is like the 4th largest river in the world, and at some points it's like
because there is
80 feet deep and fast moving current. I mean,
there is a payout that can be measurable. You can say, if I can create this amount of kilowatts and I can have this amount of Bitcoin mining or Ethereum mining, whatever, you can project out what your earnings will possibly be in 1 year, 5 year, 10 year.
So let me speak to the listener here who's wondering what mining means. From the last time you and I spoke, Scott, they're shoebox sized devices that are connected to a high-speed internet, and they are confirming Bitcoin or any sort of cryptocurrency transactions.
Correct. They're validating the transaction just like Visa or MasterCard do.
Like authorized.net.
And because they're so many of them in a small space, you have to plug them in. They have to be powered, and that's where the electricity is generated.
That's true. And
not generated, but consumed.
And they consume a substantial amount of energy each, but they're very small. So you can put them we put them in like a container, right? So we've got a shipping container that we've modified. It's a 20-foot shipping container that we've modified to run 125 Bitcoin miners. So we can literally put them in one place. And guess what? When power gets cheaper, guess what we do? We pick up the container and move to cheaper power.
Yeah.
So that's the flexibility that we have. In the previous generation would have built out a warehouse and made that your mine.
Right.
And then this next generation of mining is not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about blockchain. We're talking about all the different cryptocurrencies. I'm in the studio today. Scott Tindle, Johnny Gwin with me, trying to lead me slowly through this. They're holding my hand as we walk through this. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. We'll be right back. The Alabama Center for Real Estate, known as ACRE, strives every day to be a valued resource that supports and promotes Alabama's real estate industry and promotes economic and workforce development across the great state of Alabama. ACRE and Alabama, a championship collaboration. Get to know ACRE and learn more about their offerings and their events at their website, www.acre.culverhouse.ua.edu. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. Scott Tindle, Johnny Gwin, we're in the studio talking Bitcoin, we're talking mining, we're talking the different cryptocurrencies. The one that we're talking about in this room between breaks the most is the Helium network. Is that right?
That's right.
Go ahead with Helium.
So Helium is a decentralized wireless communication network that currently operates IoT bandwidth, but will be moving into 5G.
Say what IoT is.
IoT is the Internet of Things. So it's anytime we want to connect something to the internet, or we wish we had the data, but it's either outside the range of Wi-Fi or it's too expensive to put an LTE card on. So the example I use a lot is, if anyone's seen a rental scooter before,
sure.
When you're on that rental scooter, your phone is using the data so that company knows where their scooter is, and they get all the data from that. Well, when you get off that scooter, you take your phone with you, the company still needs to know where their scooter is. And so they can put this little sensor on there that sends out a signal every 5 minutes. The sensor might cost them $30, but they can monitor that scooter for $1 a year. If they were to put a cell card on it, like a LTE card,
costs $20 a month.
$20-$30 a month.
Just like a phone.
It's driving these costs down. One of the examples that Johnny uses is, with these dog trackers.
Dog trackers. So have you ever seen on Facebook where you can put this thing on a dog's collar and your dog gets away, and you can pull up, because you're a member on dogtracker.com. They can say, hey, your dog is over Broad Street and Royal Street, whatever it is. And that it's been mighty expensive because that tracker was using what I would say is LTE or some other thing. Well, with the new sensors, with Helium, because it's so much cheaper, that cost goes down. So now it's $1 a year instead of whatever it was before. But that is something that would be the IoT chatter, I call it, that miners that I own, that's on my house, 30 feet in the air, that is reading that within about, I don't know, what do you think, a 400-yard, 500, 17 miles, because you connect together. And as you connect house to house, individual to individual to have a miner, you're creating the mesh, the matrix.
Yeah.
And that creates the massive ability to do data and voice, just like Verizon and AT&T.
Sorry, I have miners that talk to each other from 30 miles apart.
Right.
That they can send data back and forth.
So talk to me about what this miner looks like. Let me say, Scott, I want one. Yeah. And you're going to say, all right.
It's the ultimate gadget, in my opinion. If you're a gadget person, it's the ultimate gadget.
Well, I suspect it looks like a piece of hardware. And you plug it in and you leave it alone.
Depends if you have the indoor or the outdoor model. I have the outdoor model. It's 30 because it records better. You have an antenna that goes up about 3.5 meters, right? Or I don't know, 18, 20 inches, whatever. That goes on top of a box. The box has an all-weather polymer on the outside of it, and on the inside looks like a motherboard of a computer.
It's just a Raspberry Pi on the inside.
Yeah, it's just a Raspberry Pi, which is a simple, very powerful computer that does one function, and that goes down my Ethernet cord, down the pole, goes into my house, goes in this thing called a PoE, which is giving power through the Ethernet. That means it powers the antenna and the miner, and then it goes into my router, and my router is connected to the internet, and the internet sends that information to the Helium network.
So it doesn't even plug into the wall.
Well, it's got to have
router.
It's got to have power somewhere, but we can just use a regular electrical outlet. And that's what most of mine operate on. So like if we're putting them up on a billboard or something like that, I don't need any kind of non-standard power. But what the goal is to have it as high as possible with as good visibility as possible. Sure. Because it's just like a cellular communication network. Yeah. We're just doing other things. So, whether we're monitoring packages or dogs or, using smart sensors for agribusiness or we're a lot of folks now, I'll give you another good example of what we can do. We're working on a project where we will be able to deploy sensors throughout Mobile Bay and get real-time information on water quality.
And air quality.
And air quality. The same thing that our local nonprofits are having to send interns down to scoop water or asking for volunteers, to scoop water and then test it. We can deploy these sensors that will give us this information every 5 minutes. And we're going to do that in Mobile Bay this summer.
Cheaply is the key here. So how much? So let's say I want one. Mm-hmm. Why would I want one other than to be the good guy that's helping decentralize things?
I don't care if you want to be the good guy or not. I think it's great to be the good guy. You could be both. It's always better to be the good guy, but some people just want one because they want a passive stream of income.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Yes. What is the passive stream of income? You give me one of these things, I go in my house and I plug it in and I set it up. Where does the income come from?
So depending on how good your setup is,
how high you can get it,
and how good your visibility is, people, the money is going to come from the Helium network, right? Because we have what's called proof of coverage. Right. So the way we prove that the network exists is by sending packets to other devices saying, yes, I'm online.
We're talking together.
Yes, we're receiving information. When you do that, you get paid every day for proof of coverage. So you get paid every single day, regardless of if you're moving data. Now, we believe data is going to grow as we do this. But the trick is how many other devices can hear you. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a game. You've got to get your device where it hears other devices.
And Scott deals with that a lot more than me. I have two, okay? There's one at my father's house, and there's one that I have. I have not really optimized my dad's yet because he doesn't let me. I'm 50 years old, and he still doesn't want me to get on the roof like a child. But you have to get it there. You have to be able to do that stuff. But I am earning on two anywhere between $6 a day and $12 a day. I can make that better by optimizing always my height and what I'm doing with that miner. So it doesn't sound like a lot now, and I'm saying that in dollars because you're getting paid in HNT, a Helium network token. Right now it's at $20. When I got into it, it was $40. So that $10 I'm making today when HNT is $20 is $20 when it's at $40. So if HNT goes to $500 a token, and I have earned 25 over my time of accumulating tokens, that is where you really exponentially make money. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's not so great because the crypto market in general is way low. But when it starts building up like we think it's going to, the idea is all that you've accumulated exponentially gains in value.
The general idea in crypto is if you can make your money back on a piece of hardware in 12 months, it's a good investment.
Right. So what does this hardware cost?
This hardware right now with the outdoor kit ready to go is $1,000.
Really, that much?
And you also have to add $100 for the flagpole and other things too. So go ahead and say $1,200.
Yeah, $1,200 would get you a good setup. But we have setups that are earning their cost back in 30 days, 90 days.
Yeah.
So
and Cam, this is the other thing. This is what's amazing. you can't feel like you're getting robbed, because you can look at every miner on the map and see what they're earning.
Oh,
so that's
where you know where to put it. So the idea is, like, you might say, I got a buddy that lives over by this hex. Hex is how the map is done. You can't have too many you can't have miners stacked on top of miners. See what I'm saying? You have to have distance and all that kind of stuff. But the idea is, you can say, I got a buddy that lives over by this guy that's making 18 H&T a month. And you try to make a deal with your buddy that says, hey, I'm going to put this thing up. And then you figure out, I'll pay you 20% of what I do, because he's earning more in his location than you are at your location presently.
Yeah, or if you own commercial property already, or if you own a billboard
Especially
company,
if you own a building that's high in the air.
Yeah, if you manage anything that's, got some height to it, you'll earn your money back a lot quicker. But to Johnny's point, most of the people are not looking at their daily earnings because they're not trying to use it as a supplement to their income to pay their bills. They're using it as an investment opportunity. And, you put $1,000 into the market, you're not doubling your money. I mean, it's going to be a long time before you do that.
And here's the thing. I track it all on my phone. It's an app. It's easy to read. It reads it almost in real time with the idea of what you're earning and what's been sent. But I quit looking at my earnings in dollars. I only, because it's the month, because I said H&T is only at $20, not $40. I only now look at it as accumulation of tokens. Because that is what I'm really caring about now, because I believe that token will be $50 and $75, and I'm accumulating as I'm going.
Right. This is interesting. So this is growing. How many Helium devices? Is that what it's called?
750,000 worldwide.
Yeah, there's over 750,000 worldwide. But what you're going to see is Web3, which we briefly mentioned, is going to be this. It's going to be people monetizing their own activities, monetizing their own life, using that as passive streams of income, because the nature of work is going to change. Right? That's a whole other conversation for another day.
How can you say something like that with a minute and a half left in the segment, that the whole nature of the work on a show that's about workplace and workforce trends?
So
leave your audience wanting more, Cam.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the audience now. It's me. It's me wanting more.
To give you an idea, there are high school kids right now making $150,000 a year coding because they understand how to code on the blockchain, and folks our age don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm not sure folks our age really get it. We're the Chinese government. We're going, I don't.
Well, I think that's
it
important.
Shuts people down.
It's
worse. It shuts people off, which I hate. So when I talk to people now, and by the way, I don't engage the conversation because it makes them angry. I wait for someone to approach me now, and I don't talk in technology. I talk in business and investment fundamentals, and I say, don't get confused by the innovation and technology, because that's what scares you. But they understand the idea of buy low, sell high.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about that, because let me show you how you can do it in different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the reason this conversation is important is we have to live in the world as it exists, not the way we wish it existed.
That's your signature line, and I love it.
And understand it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm in for one of these things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll get y'all set up.
Yeah. And maybe we can put a flagpole on the roof. My wife will love that.
HOAs love these things.
Yeah, I'm sure. We'll put it way up there. And I might just have one of my children climb to the top of a pine tree and tape it up to the top of the pine tree. That would be great.
It would be a good idea. We should take one up to the Culver House School and put one on the building there, and they can use it as a project.
Oh, I know who to call. I know who to call. Well, that'll bring this to a close. This is fascinating. I sense the potential here. I think there are more conversations that needed to be had. How can, Scott, if somebody else is out there, and the show is now across the state of Alabama, and saying, hey, I want one of these things. I get it. I want one of these things. How do they find you?
Easiest way is Twitter or Instagram, probably. I'm Scott_Tindle, Tindle on both. I can also, my email is just scott.tindle@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So, and it's just Tindle.
And I will say one last thing. There is so much to learn with this. Do your research before you do anything. Research.
Johnny Gwin is with Deep Fried Studios. Johnny, how do they find you?
DeepFriedStudios.com, Johnny at JohnnyGwin.com, JohnnyGwin.com. You put Johnny Gwin in Google. I'm pretty much a Google. I'm not going to say the word whore, but I just said it. I'm a Google whore.
Yeah. How many N's in Gwin?
One N. That's a very good question. I have a lot of trophies.
How many N's in Johnny?
Yeah.
2 N, so JOHNNY, GWIN.
Yeah, and you guys know where to find me. I'll do that in the next segment. This has been very good. I appreciate it. Reach out to these gentlemen if you want to know more. I love it. Scott, you said the last time you were in here, you said it over and over again. You got to deal with the world the way that is, not the way you wish it were. And you're painting a picture. The two of you are painting a picture on the way it is. Even if we don't understand it, it's a little bit out of our reach. You're painting a picture on the way it is. Thank you both.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We'll come back after this with final comments. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. This is Cam Marston with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, houses on pilings can have termites eat their way up inside the piling and enter the house. The homeowner never knows about it, but your company offers protection. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Cam. Basically, what we have designed is a program, and what we do is we will actually drill to the center of the piling and put a product in the center that will stop the termites from coming up into the home.
Stucco exteriors as well?
Correct.
How can people find you, Cajun Mike?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com.
Hey, this is Billy Duran. I'm the president of Threaded Fasters. And when I'm not down at the Nut House, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now back to the show.
What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. So in one of these upcoming shows, I'll tell you about this device that I'm having installed in my home to see how it works, to see what I can learn from monitoring the Helium network around me. I'll be very candid and let you know what kind of revenue this is generating from me. I don't think it's going to change my life, but I am very curious about how it all works. And I've embraced Scott's attitude. If you got to live in the world the way it is, not the way you wish that it was. And I tend to believe what he's saying. Let the world the way it is will include this technology and will include these Helium devices and things of that nature. And though I must be honest, I don't quite completely understand it all. Perhaps I'm not meant to understand it. I am, after all, an arts and sciences major from back in the day. But I'm going to give it a try, and I'll let you know how it goes. Thanks to Scott, thanks to Johnny for their time and attention. We went to lunch after that conversation and before I recorded this, and the conversation continued over lunch, and they're all in, man, and it's wonderful to be around people with such passion and energy about something that they truly believe can change the world, and there's no reason to think that it won't. Very exciting. Reach out to either of them if you want more information. You can find links to them in the podcast content of this show, which brings me to how to follow up if you're at all interested. Wait, before I do that, we've been talking a lot about the upcoming succession planning seminar, and I want to give you that update. The date is May 26th. It will be at the Community Foundation of South Alabama. We will have speakers talking about case studies. The gentleman from Sandifer Wealth Management will be bringing case studies of how people have exited their business and how they got a payout and how they structured the payout in such a way that it helped finance their retirement. We'll also have gentlemen talking about coaching the successor, getting people ready to take over that head position, as well as getting the person that's leaving that position, training him or her on how to coach and teach people what they know. Oftentimes people in such positions of leadership and responsibility aren't aware of the full scope of their knowledge. And it takes a coach to help them say, you need to teach them these things. You need to spend time doing this. Give it effort. Give it priority. So the succession planning seminar, May 26th. It will be at the Community Foundation of South Alabama here in Mobile. And we're going to have if you want to come, if you're looking for an invitation, reach out to me directly, Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. That's Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. We'd love to have you. Okay, so the book is forthcoming. I continue to talk about that, and I'll have more information on that. I think it's going to be longer than I had initially anticipated. But it's called What Works, the 10 Best Ideas from the First 200 Episodes is forthcoming. If you want to share this podcast with somebody, you can find it at cammarston.com or what'sworkingcam.com. Either of those places will lead you to it, cammarston.com or what'sworkingcam.com, and you can subscribe there, forward it on to other people. I hope you'll follow me on social media. We keep updates of the show going on. You can find me at Cam Marston on all the different popular social media sites. And you might need to enter Cam Marston in the numeral 1. Like us, friend us, tweet us, post us, paste us, pin us, whatever it may be. Love to have you cruising along with us on that. Show is produced by John Thompson with Eyeon Digital, EYEON Digital. Check him out. We'll have another good show next week for everybody. That's all. Have a good week. Brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, Culver House College of Business, University of Alabama.